So the council had a lot of very large summits over the years, and they were tremendously successful. They embodied both counties in the Inland Empire. Wally, tell us a little bit about how that got started.
Very good. First of all, we had our meetings in a small conference room, generally at the steel mill, that was probably 20 people capacity. So it was not easy for us to change our mindset to think in terms of something called a summit. But after we were starting to see the success of our programs, Debbie Smith had come on board with the council and suggested that we have some bigger gathering to clue the manufacturers in on what we had been working on and who had been making good contributions of both time and treasury to the efforts of the manufacturing industry in the Inland Empire. So I think Debbie could tell you what inspired her to help us celebrate that.
Yes.
Sure. So we wanted a greater expansion and growth of the Manufacturers Council to get the word out on all the work that we had done kind of behind the scenes. It wasn't widely known, all of the work that had been done up to this point. So through that, we said, let's do a summit. We've got a lot of momentum here, and let's share with the public at large the kinds of things that are going on. Bring in our great government partners, economic and workforce development through our county. Let's any of our state representatives, have them come in, have a few vendors, you know, just start opening up and broadening the scope of what the Manufacturers Council could do. And I think there just was a lot of unknowns. People just weren't aware of what manufacturing is, what it does, the opportunities that exist. And we said, we really need to broaden the work that we're doing. So we decided a summit might be in the best interest of the region.
I'd like to add to that we happened to pick a Friday for our first summit. And it turns out that the political folks from Sacramento generally go back to their home districts on their Fridays. So our first summit, we had quite a few political names. I remember our state senator from Riverside, Senator Richard Roth, came up to me at the first summit and he said, Wally, you've really got something here. That surprised me. So this was a surprise to all of us at the good turnout we had. Little did we know that the turnout would double the next year and grow for the next 8 summits or so that we had.
Well, and actually develop a reputation across the entire state for a manufacturing council that was operating and having very successful summits at the time.
Yes.
I think being an industry association that was driving the movement, this was the first of its kind in the state of California that we're aware of, where we brought together all of the entities, you know, simultaneously in one room to say, this is what I'm doing in my shop, what are you doing in yours? There were some discussions about local sourcing and how we might establish, you know, some of that to consider how manufacturer one could help manufacturer two by, again, through the local sourcing. So it was just, you know, initiating that piece so that there could be some expansion and so forth. We weren't really trying to get, oh, we're the first in the state. That just ended up being a byproduct.
You were trying to solve problems that you could see were
Yes.
right here in the Inland Empire.
Exactly.
Well, I'd like to also mention, because if we go a little bit further forward in the calendar, as we got more summits under our belt, we had visitors, for example, from San Diego, who said, you know, we have tried to create a manufacturers council down here in San Diego, but we can't get past the first meeting. We have one meeting, we feed 1,000 people in a big banquet hall, and it falls apart. What is it that you people find? And so we held a meeting with that group from San Diego. This was just a very small group, 3 people who came up, and our board members spoke up very eloquently to say, we can help each other. That is actually what they found to be very useful, is that one board member or one member firm can call another and get help on specific problems. And it was maybe too simple of an answer, but that's what we had to go by. And so we knew we had succeeded, at least to that extent, that we had visitors from other places that were tried it, and they just couldn't figure out how to keep it alive, how to make it go and grow.
I would like to add to that and say, in the early stages, there was not a lot of trust between manufacturers. Like, I don't want to disclose all the stories about, you know, how I operate and what my wages are.
Right.
And before long, you know, we got to the place where they were being very honest and saying, what are you going to do for your succession plan? I'm going to steal from you, was the response. And that was a real response. They laughed about it, but we knew that there's a big issue here where we want to stop the poaching. We wanted to make sure that we trained up the next workforce, the future workforce. So it really was an evolution of the key factor being relationship building. We didn't just try to throw together a summit and have a whole bunch of people show up. You know, we had 6, 8, 10, 12 years of the same people sitting around the table, and that group was growing. And I think it was I know it was the relationships that had been developed to say, we have to take this to the next phase.
Well, and you also had terrific content with breakout sessions on a variety of subjects having to do with advanced manufacturing and very specialized subjects that many manufacturers might have gotten from their particular sub-industry that they're involved in, say the plastics industry, but they wouldn't necessarily get the same kind of topics that you would bring forward. Some of them might have been regional in nature and so forth, but there were so many breakout sessions over the years, I couldn't even begin to remember all of them. There were dozens and dozens.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to bring another name in, and that was Rod Hoover from California Steel, who was at that time the HR manager. Had said, I'd love to send 10 people to a summit. I'd love to send 10 of them from different jobs, you know, engineering, environmental engineering, whatever those legal, to the summit. But I want to have a takeaway for each of them. I want each of them if they spend a day here at our summit, then they need to have something that they go back with that they've learned. So this was a strong imperative from California Steel's human resource manager at that time.
Right.
And that really shaped a lot of what we did.
And as it turns out, many other important companies in the Inland Empire too. Yeah. Thank you.
I think everybody benefited in that respect.
Yes, I think so.